Hello YouTube, got a package in the mail. Let's see what we got. Somebody packed really nice. We got a return label. And we got some nice smooth parts. We got a control arm. And we got another control arm. So it looks like we're going to refinish a set of GM 64 through 72 front upper control arms for GM A bodies. A body is GTO, Chevelle, Tempest, all those good cars. So these arms are interchangeable with all those cars. 1964 through 1972 GM A body. This upper control arm is the same for all of them. So first step is let's do a little cleanup. Get these ball joints out of here. I don't want to put the grease into the sandblaster. Alright, the way I like to take these rivets out is I chisel the head off on the underside here, and that's the side that you bolt the ball joint up, so any marring of the arm is covered by the new ball joint that goes on there. But if you're careful, you can do this without doing any damage to the arm. And now that I cut the heads off, you just punch the rivet out. And then we can take the ball joint out. Take the ball joint out. No damage to the arm. The next step is to remove these pivot shafts. Now there's 3 different style pivot shafts. It doesn't make any difference which style you have. They all fit. They're all interchangeable. I have found the best way to get these shafts out is to get yourself one of these things. And it makes taking these bushings out really easy. So let's do one from the distance, and then we'll do one close up so you can see what happens. First thing I do is take one of the nuts out. Now we're going to remove this bushing. This collar drops down in back of the bushing. This shoulder fits down over onto the arm, so what we're doing is we're pushing on the back side of this bushing and the arm and pushing the bushing out, theoretically. Now this is kind of a juggling act to get this to go together. Okay, and make sure we got clearances down here. All right. We'll have to take the bushing out the rest of the way with an air chisel. Now we'll take this nut off. Put this collar over here like that. So both of these are going to be stubborn. Now if you look at it, what we got is we have this bushing halfway out and that bushing halfway out. So now we can safely get an air chisel on the back side of this collar and push it out the rest of the way without doing any damage to the control arm. So let's do that. The bushing hasn't come off of the pivot arm again. So what we're going to do is get right down on the pivot, and now we'll get it to move, and now let's take it off. There we go. First thing we do is take this nut out. And then we take this collar and set it down on the back of that bushing just like that. Take this collar and set it down. In there. Like so. That one really didn't want to come out, but it has come out. Let's do this one now. Collar. Collar. Okay, so now we got to go over in a vise and pop these the rest of the way off. So this one's just being a little stubborn here. Okay, there's one. So what we have now is two stripped arms with no damage to any of them. These are going to clean up and be nice arms. We got to do the pivot shafts also. I need to know whether he wants to do those in gray or black. I'll have to contact him. But the next thing to do is to sandblast these things. The control arms have been through the sandblaster for the first time, and we can see that they're a pretty nice set of arms, except for that crack right there. Now I don't know what caused that crack, because that's in a very strange place. It's not a stressful place, and it is truly all the way through, but it's in a good spot. I think I can weld it up and grind it down. So that's the next thing. Other than that, these arms are nice. They're worth saving because they're what's called C-code arms. Right here, see the C? And this one has the same thing. All right, so the next thing is to weld that crack up. Show you this. That's good penetration. This is the weld. And that's the penetration. We're ready for the next step. This is the arm that was repaired, and you can see a little bit there, but it's certainly better than throwing the arm away. And the underside, there's the underside. I got 3 holes where I welded, one right there and a couple right there. But that's the underside. Pivot shafts are done, the other arm is done. Now it's time to go back and do a final sandblast, and then it'll go into the oven for outgassing. And this is what they look like after final cleanup. And we're ready to go in the oven for outgassing for powder coat. So the next step is to powder coat. And it's always best to go into a hot oven. And we go 45 minutes at 400 degrees, and that fully cures the powder. There's the sirens again. Boys are out having fun. They go. And there we go. We'll let them cool, and then we'll start to assemble them. The arms have cooled off. This is what it looks like when they're done. Nice looking arms. We'll replace the bolts. Washers are powder coated. Pivot shafts are powder coated. Next step is to get the powder out of the inside of that sleeve for the bushing. So I take this little drum sander and I just clean out the inside. You only want to take off the powder, you don't really want to make the opening any bigger. Okay, so you see there's still just a trace on the inside. So I know that the opening hasn't been widened up, it's just been cleaned up. The next task is to put this shaft into the pivot shaft with the bushings in it. Like so. The way I like to do it, I like to do it in one operation. I have a piece of pipe that fits over that bushing, a piece of pipe that pushes over that bushing, and then this piece of pipe goes down between the ears so that the arm can't be crushed. And then I put a block here, and this sits in the press, and I push the whole thing together. Again, what we have is a block, a shim, the bushing that's being pushed into the arm, a brace between the two ears so that the ears don't get squeezed together, and another collar at the bottom. And what we're doing is pushing it all in at once. And when it's seated, you can tell by the way the jack acts. It's no more slop. And what we got is the shaft installed and no Mars. Here we go. Final arm. And there we go. We'll put the washers on and we'll be all set. One thing everybody should know is you never, ever tighten these bolts until the car is on the ground and all the weight is sitting on it. That means all the fenders and bumpers and all that stuff. Then the last thing you do is you come around and you tighten these bolts, because these pivot shafts don't actually pivot. If you look at the bushing real close, you'll see there's teeth there, and those teeth dig into the arm. So what you got to do is get this pivot shaft in the right orientation with all the weight in the car on the ground, and then you tighten the bolts. So once again, we've reached the end of the video. These arms are as complete as I can go. I didn't get ball joints with them, but they just bolt in anyway. There are a couple little tricks I could have showed you if I had the ball joints. when I get another set of arms, I'll show you the tricks with the ball joints. But these arms turned out very nice. There'll be more. Thank you much.